DeLaO.
All right, hello again. This is Ben Hitchcock Cross talking to you. I got Lala the dog here, and we're gonna go through a brief segment. Yeah, I think she wants to do something else, and who wouldn't? So we're gonna read a few paragraphs. I feel terribly at the moment, so we'll get some minor stuff done. I want to catch you up. I've got a lot of Matt Chasen videos ready to go. He is the senior auditor for Milwaukee Public Schools. We've got him 3 different depositions. We put out some of his stuff before, but we're going to put everything out going forward here. And come here. Put everything out going forward here, and we'll go from there. Yeah, this is Lala. She is apparently a camera hound. Is that what's happening here? Okay. You sure you don't have otherwise occupied? You have other things to do? Oh. It is now 35 degrees out, which is kind of outrageous that she's not doing her goat duties. I will say that the iron law of contracts means that apparently I promised the goats some year ago, and particularly Susan the goat, that if it gets lower than 15 degrees, I would allow them to come into the barn. And Suze the goat, the daughter, and now general of the Vanguard here, is holding me to those promises. And I wish I had a video of that, because as much as my rhetorical skills often come in handy in disputes with Suze the goat, you get nothing but and I could tell you that I don't always win those. So here we go. I will say that yesterday was a low point. This is a little bit of tough reading here. And we're going to get through this. I can't wait to get, and I know we're getting lesser and lesser interest in this. Where it's going to get exciting again is when we're going to talk about bias. We've got a bunch of legal issues that are coming up. So we got to get through these facts here. Sort of before we can get on to the digested part, we have to get into this is her construction of reality here. So she's taken all the evidence, she's digested it, and she's recapitulating to us what reality is. So we have to be able to keep that in mind when we go forward. So I think we were on 60. 19th, Carr sent Novak a letter confirming that Novak was being laterally transferred from a career executive position. And that she would not have to serve a probationary period. This is the transfer that was announced but delayed because of COVID. As a result, Novak was no longer the warden at CCI as of May 24th, and Fuchs became the warden. Wasn't that lucky for him? Is there any talk about comparison between Fuchs and Novak? Is there any discussion of that in here? No. Novak did not begin her duties as the warden at Red Granite because she was still on administrative leave when she was being investigated. Okay, and the reason that's important is because if you focus the lens on just the 2 individuals who were disciplined and ignore Percy or Fuchs or anybody else who had a car or Fesahaya, anybody else who had, it's unusual that they're just going after a warden here. It's very important what lens you're looking at this and how you're slicing this picture, and I think the judge clearly knows that. So between the 2 interviews in April, Novak was interviewed 3 more times by Internal Affairs. After Fesahaya put Novak on administrative leave with pay, Novak, Weber, and Geske were all interviewed by Zoom. June 12th was the last day that the Internal Affairs had with Novak before the Internal Affairs identified if Novak had possibly identified any specific DOC work rules. Now, do you recall any testimony about Internal Affairs identifying any work rule violations? Because I don't recall that. Ms. Preston didn't seem able to do that. On the case of Novak's disciplinary investigation, the first part of the summary of investigative findings discussed that Zimdahl, a food service employee, attempted to bring in various items of contraband to the kitchen for inmates since February. The summary also states that Zimdahl brought in contraband wires. The summary discussed Zimdahl was originally charged with 2 counts of party to a crime escape and 1 count of delivering illegal articles into an inmate. The summary discussed the levels of, sorry, here, I think we're just, this is for Julie, I think about 10 behind here. The summary also discussed that Zimdahl, the level of information that Novak and her investigators had gathered on Zimdahl prior to the escape, and despite having this information that Novak had not put Zimdahl on leave because Novak did not believe that there was enough information to terminate Zimdahl. The summary also discussed the facts involved in the failure of Novak as the CCI warden to ensure that CCI was following the escape checklist, and the EMC and OVSP were never notified by CCI of the escape as required by the escape checklist, but instead EMC and OVSP learned of the escape from media reports. Jeez, we heard this before. The summary stated that Novak was informed by Weber soon after Novak became the CCI warden in 2018 that the stun fence at CCI was installed incorrectly. The summary states that Novak stated that no staff member mentioned that the stun fence should be improved during the budget meetings and that the fence was never a concern to prior wardens since the stun fence was incorrectly installed in 1986. Summary discussed that Novak was aware the post order CCI had not been updated for years. However, Novak stated that she was not aware that the post orders had not updated since 2014. According to the summary, Novak stated that she had assigned the duty of updating the post orders to Gusky. Okay. The second part of the summary in connection with conduct in connection with April 16th of 2020, the Internal Affairs Office identified potential work rule violations made by Novak given the investigation findings of fact. The summary stated that based on the findings of fact, that Novak might have been found to have violated Work Rule 3 insubordination and negligence. Do you remember how she was able to explain that? Rule 2, failure to follow the policies and procedures, and serious misconduct by Novak for gross negligence or conduct by an employee which causes a substantial risk to the safety and security of DOC faculty, staff, the community, or inmates, offenders, or juvenile offenders under DOC care. With respect to the work rule violations 3 and the offense of serious misconduct, the summary referred to Novak's failure to take action to inquire about getting the fence fixed, the failure to ensure the appropriate notifications were made after the escape, and Novak's failure to place Zimdahl on administrative leave when Novak had multiple sources of information concerning Zimdahl's misconduct prior to the escape. With respect to the work rule violation 2, the summary referred to Novak's failure to follow the agency's policies and procedures by not notifying the EMC and OVSP of the escape in a timely manner. The summary of investigation findings is included in an investigation packet that is created by Internal Affairs at the end of the investigation. That it includes all of the interviews with investigation subjects and the witnesses, as well as any exhibits gathered during the investigation. Doesn't include all of their Preston's conversations with Petracek, does it? No, it does not. All right, the investigation packet for Novak was forwarded to Fesahaya as the appointing authority. Fesahaya and the members of the infraction review team would then be expected to review the entire Internal Affairs investigative packet to decide if they agreed that Novak probably violated the work rule violations identified by Internal Affairs. Fesahaya and other members of the infraction review team were expected to review the entire investigatory packet from Internal Affairs to decide if the IRT agreed with the Internal Affairs investigation that work rule violations probably had been committed by Novak. The IRT team for Novak consisted of Fesahaya, Preston, and Kelly Brown. It's just kind of amusing that Preston, who supposedly had already found work rule violations, is now on this second level team. That's why. Kelly Brown, it works for the DOA, but really works for Carr. Okay, yeah, who worked for the DOA. After reviewing the investigative pack for Novak, the IR team determined that the work rule violations had probably been committed by Novak, as stated in the summary of investigation findings, and the disciplinary action may be warranted. She says the team. Okay. I mean, in my opinion, that takes a lot of work to ignore the evidence there that it was Fesahaya was the one who was actually making the decision. That's even what Kelly Brown says, and Preston, and because neither of them could identify any potential work rule violations of the way that rules were violated. But really, there's no mention here of Carr talking to. I mean, there's absolutely no mention of who's the one who's actually making the decisions here. This is fantasy. The IRT did not make a decision concerning the type and level of discipline that Novak would be given if a final decision was made that Novak had violated any or all of the work rules listed in the summary of investigative findings. However, if Novak was found to have engaged in serious acts of misconduct, the DOC could move to impose more severe discipline up to and including discharge, even though Novak had never been previously disciplined, so she would not have been given progressive discipline. This is, I think, going to be good here. The DOC rules require that the secretary approve any decision to terminate the employee. However, if the DOC appointing authority decides to skip levels of progressive discipline or finds the employee engaged in serious misconduct, the full investigative packet for the DOC employee, including any testimony, must be given to the DOA's Division of Personnel Management to review and to decide. According to statistics maintained by Kelly Brown, the DOC has referred 452 cases involving skips in progression, and the DPM has approved 244 recommendations to terminate involving skips and discipline, and the DPM has not agreed to 208 recommendations to terminate in the employment of DOC employees involving skips or disciplines of serious misconduct. Okay. We had that evidence. Did we have any evidence that there, in any way, the Division of Personnel Management changed the secretary's decision? Did we ever have any evidence of that? Wow. Wow. And wow. Before a final decision could be made about whether Novak did violate the work rules, DOC rules require that Novak be given a pre-disciplinary meeting. The pre-disciplinary meeting, Novak must be given the opportunity to respond to the essential facts and or to offer mitigating information or circumstances. The objective of this meeting is to ensure that the employees had a full and fair opportunity, yada, yada, yada. Does anybody disagree that all of the evidence was that Carr made all the decisions here? Because everything that we just read makes it seem like somebody other than Carr is actually making decisions. Fesahaya didn't even say that. She came back one day and said that Carr was making all the decisions because she didn't feel comfortable. And then she came back another day and contradicted that testimony. Kelly Preston said she couldn't make any decisions. The 15807 said it was very clear on who made decisions. Novak testified to who was making the decisions. And Swatcher testified as to how these decisions were being made. She found that Carr ordered her Novak to discipline the line workers, but somehow Carr didn't have anything to do with Fesahaya. That was Fesahaya's independent decision that she supposedly made in consultation with Carr. I mean, again, there needs to be a tie-in to who's making the actual decision, because she's just reading off policy, and that's fantasy. And we also have to remember that her current boss is Petchacek. So that's, I mean, we say there's cause for bias there, which is problematic. And we're going to get into that, which I can't wait shortly. But also, we're saying here, when the decision is little more than a recitation of what the state employees said, or some cases state employees didn't say, or just reading off the documents that the state concocted, or, the policies, but not actually completely ignoring all of the evidence. She's not even stating that anybody had said anything else. Many of these decisions, you'll at least have so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this. This is what we found. All right. So we will continue here on 29 and get to the constructive discharge here. I guess we'll go to 70, and say on June 20, Novak was still on paid administrative leave when Novak was given a letter from Sonnenberg scheduling her for a pre-discipline meeting. Subsequent to the meeting was rescheduled. Both notices, yada, yada, yada. Okay, Novak was informed on the notice that she was being given the opportunity to refute management's findings and introduce information or evidence not yet presented to management for consideration in making a final decision whether disciplinary action should be taken against Novak. The letter informed Novak that the preliminary determination had been made that Novak had violated work rules and engaged in serious acts of misconduct. The latest letter stated the specific issues involved Novak's failure to inquire about fixing the stun fence, Novak's failure to ensure the EMC monitoring center, the Office of Victim Services and Programs were notified about the escape. The letter also stated that despite having multiple sources of information about a staff member's misconduct, Novak did not place the staff member on administrative leave. Right. And Percy said, just take care of it. It's your job. So, neither did Percy. So the male didn't do it either, and there was absolutely the male manager didn't do it. There was no consequences. Again, it's a bitter pill to swallow, not just because we all know what's coming, but because this is somebody paid by the state of Wisconsin to fairly hear hearings, including those put on by the state of Wisconsin, and it doesn't appear that they were able to do that. I think that when we read the justification for why she didn't recuse herself, despite the fact that she knew that Amy Petchacek was intimately involved here as of the first day, then I think we'll know a lot more about where we're at. So I appreciate all your time with us. Stick with us, I hope. J-E-L-L. And we'll keep you informed. That was totally the wrong button. I was hoping for some good exit music, but you'll just have to on your own. Have a great night.